Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy Friday. Happy day after Christmas. Happy last Friday of 2025. It's all so exciting. Are you a person that creates a word of the year? I most certainly am. And I am so delighted to invite you to a 90-minute workshop on January 3rd, Saturday, to create your word of the year. Now, I understand that's kind of a long time, and I want you to be in the habit of holding space for yourself for these important things to happen. And I could just tell you how I do it and leave you on your own, but instead I'm so eager to use the processes that have been in service for me with you in real time. So it's going to be fabulous. We'll be incorporating meditation and journaling and a mind mapping process. And at the end, you're going to have your fabulous word. So even if you've already figured out what your word is for 2026, I invite you into this process just so that you can solidify the practices and the alignment of that beautiful choice that you made. I hope you have fabulous plans for this weekend. Amelia and I are off to Boston. We're staying in a fancy hotel and enjoying all the beautiful lights of the city. She didn't want to travel this year, so we are keeping it close to home, but still enjoying beautiful spaces that we enjoy so much. So I am eager to hear about your plans and what's on your heart and how you are moving into this new year with intention and grace and purpose. And I am cheering you on from here. I also have another fabulous conversation, a wonderful guest that is going to give us more tools, more cheering to call us in to the people we are becoming through this beautiful season of life. So today we have Dr. Elizabeth O'Brien. She is a UC Foundation professor at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga and director of the School of Professional Studies in the College of Health, Education, and Professional Studies. She is the current chair of the American Counseling Association Foundation's Board of Trustees, the philanthropic arm of the American Counseling Association, the national professional organization for counselors. Elizabeth has presented nationally and internationally on topics including wellness, marriage and couples counseling, spiritual and ethical decision-making, and rural mental health care delivery. She is also the author of The Power in the Middle, a compelling exploration of how midlife offers a transformative opportunity to realign with one's core values, beliefs, and boundaries. Her work highlights the importance of shedding external expectations in order to live more intentionally and authentically. How great is that? It's exactly what we're doing. And I love that we're all doing it together. I'm looking forward to sharing this beautiful conversation with Dr. Elizabeth O'Brien with you. And I'm very eager to see you on Saturday January 3rd at our Word of the Year workshop. The link is in the show notes. Elizabeth, I am so delighted to have you. Thank you so much for your time in advance. I know this is going to be a great conversation.
Oh, I think we're going to have a lot of fun, Wendy. I'm excited.
It's so fun. It's just fun when you're doing something that brings you joy and you're talking to amazing people that are doing wonderful things in their own orbit. And when you bring those two levels of enthusiasm together, it just has no choice but to be a good time.
I would agree with you. And I should say also, thank you so much for having me because the reality is you can have a ton of different guests on. And so I'm just very grateful that you picked me. So thank you so much. But no, it Kismet, like obviously we are having a lot of fun already. So I look forward to, like you said, the enthusiasm and the joy that we bring into this conversation. So thank
Yes.
you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And these are the only conversations I'm really available for. So it will be a good time, I promise. So I would love to start by asking, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
Wow, that's such a great question. So I think, one of the things that brought us together was I had a book that was published in July, and it's called The Power in the Middle. And it was really brought about by a couple of different life experiences that I had. And so I started the journey of writing a book. And for those folks who are inherently creative, I think that saying yes to doing something that is labor intensive, that can take you away from other things that you love, but is also something that you love, and also taking the risk of doing something that's completely different and outside of your comfort zone is a huge way to say yes to yourself when we have a lot of opportunity to say yes to other people or other things. And so I would say that bringing that book into fruition is probably one of the biggest yeses that I've allowed myself to have in quite some time. So
Oh, well, congratulations. And
thank
I
you.
would imagine that so much of the principles that you're sharing in the book, you were also practicing in the process of writing the book, in
Oh, absolutely.
choosing
Yeah.
yourself, in investigating what feels good to you apart from all the other people in your charge.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because really the subject matter here is talking about the power in the middle, which is really moving into your midlife with confidence. And so thinking about that, it's so funny, like any story that you tell, you kind of don't know the end of it until you finish it. So it's like you're following along as you go. And what really came about for me is this notion of when you are trying to step into the season of your midlife and truly step into the boundaries, the beliefs, and the values that are going to bring you into this space of your life. A lot of them you actually had when you were a young girl. I think that was, when one of the stories that I tell through kind of the arc of the book is having what I can call sort of a come to Jesus. I'm from the South, so I'm going to
Yep.
say it that way. But, this conversation with a mentor who really challenged me on my own risk taking. And
Mm.
I had this sort of seminal moment of like, who do I want to be right now? And the vision that came to mind was this picture of me when I was probably 8 years old. And I remember going home that night and literally digging this picture out of an album that my mother had put together for me. And I found it, this wild, free girl who was just, she was comfortable. She just did not care. And she was so joyful. It's me on a swing, and I'm like yelling at the camera and just like full mouth, just untethered.
Oh,
And
I
so
have
that
chills.
yeah. And so, like, really, as I think about sort of those values and the beliefs and the boundaries, it's how do we get back to that girl who knew her worth? She knew who she was. And that's the human that we are. That's the human that we can be. And we spend so much time compromising that girl. And she's the truth, I think, for
Right?
me. I mean, I hope for other women too.
Absolutely. That is true. And when we hear things like joy is our birthright, abundance is our birthright, this freedom and love and untethered freedom really is our birthright, that it can feel like, well, no, you don't understand. I have, 7 children I have to take care of, or
Yeah.
I live on a farm and I
Yeah.
have all this stuff
Yeah.
to do. Like unbridled joy is not on my to-do list today. But really, when we see how we were as children before whatever institutions or situations or circumstances or people or life formed the woman we became, it's really a rediscovering or a remembering that comes with that reinvention. So it's not creating something out of nothing, it's remembering what we already know.
That, and I think too, when we cast our minds back to that girl, whomever she was, like there were a lot of limitations on her, right? Like there were the things that she could or couldn't do just because of her age. But even too, I think of who I was as a young girl. There were opportunities that are available to us now that weren't available when I was a young girl. And I think that seeing the things that we can do, just, earlier you and I were not being recorded, but we were talking about this independence, like this opportunity to travel, to create the lives that we want to create. And, when I think back to my mother or, other elder women in my own family or in my community, I don't know that they had those opportunities, but we do. And
Mhm.
so that young girl, like she has opportunities that maybe she didn't see, but we're creating for the next generation of girls behind us and young women behind us. And so I think that's so powerful too. I think that's empowering. It's beautiful. And it reminds us of we're consistently creating legacy no matter where we
Mhm.
are in our life. We're consistently creating a pathway for someone else, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we have biological children or children by choice. Like we're doing that for so many other people, and so we have to be so mindful of that, not in a way that feels like a burden, but just to, again, I think it's another way to capture joy. It's like what do I want for myself, but then what do I want to show other people that this version of life looks like, if I have that opportunity.
Hey, I love that answer. And I love how, like, all of my synapses are firing of questions. Like, that's so fascinating how instead of thinking, I can't think about myself because I have all of these other things to take care of, it's in that inward focus and in those decisions that I make for myself with the idea of legacy as well, actually has me taking better care of everybody in my charge because I'm doing it with intention
Absolutely,
and with
absolutely.
purpose and not just figure out something for dinner. And I think the broccoli in the back of the refrigerator is bad. Okay, I got to go to the store. I got to like call Uber Eats. I got to whatever I have to do. I don't do any of those things, but um, it sounded like somebody's day. But it's, we think that taking care of all of those things, checking the boxes, compared to this self-reflective self-care that makes us available and effective in the true care we want to offer the people that we're in community with.
I think it's important for us to validate too, like you said, like that might not be your life or my life, but those are women's lives like that. And whether or not that is something that you choose or sort of gets put upon you and you're doing it because it's what needs to get done. One thing that I truly want to validate about women is they can be very pragmatic and know, like, if I've got to push through, I've got to push through, even if I
Mhm.
feel burnt out. So some of finding joy is saying no. When we
Right.
can, finding the
Yeah.
spaces where we can, validating that not every season is going to look like a season where you can have that intentionality. And when you do find those seasons, it doesn't have to be, a weekend at an ashram. I talk about that in my book. Like I did an
Yeah.
escape to an ashram. It was quite the story. But sometimes it's 10 minutes locked in your
Yeah.
bathroom to get away from the other
Yeah.
humans in your house. And that is okay. And we have all done it. So,
Yeah.
validating the spaces and places that you're at in life, but also knowing like that intentionality it can be a real shift for people, for women to live the life that they want to live. But it takes time and it takes energy. And when you're tired and it's between you and having that 10 minutes and you going to bed a little bit early, girl, got to bed early. I get it.
Right.
Try again tomorrow. So,
Totally. Yes, because you'll get another chance. And when I say that wasn't my life, it's because we don't play soccer or use Uber Eats, but I got a thousand things that I have on my list that can easily take me away from what I've deemed important. And we've talked about this on the podcast a lot, but I have a morning practice. That one thing, I mean, I grew up in church, so there was always this, you need to have your devotional time with the Lord. And I don't know why I could never get that to be a part of my life. And about 5 years ago, that became a part of my practice. And it is my time with the Lord. Like it is, I am connecting with my source during that time. And I'm so grateful. And if I had to choose one thing that has completely transformed my life, it would be holding that space for myself. I feel like I have 2 days every day because of that time I spend. And it starts early, but it just matches my personality and the cadence of my days. But I get up at 4:45 and I have a practice that takes me until about 7, and then I wake up my daughter for school and she gets the very best version of me because I've journaled and I've prayed and I've meditated and I've read, and if I'm good, I've also stretched and moved my body. But most times I'm like so into the journaling and just that heart process. And then the rest of my day is so much movement on the farm. But anyway, that practice has been very transformational. And if you can't go to an ashram or take the fabulous pattern interrupt that is one of my trips to France, or a farm stay at the bed and breakfast, or whatever, I'm just curating and creating opportunities for women to say yes to themselves. But until your calendar matches the desire to do one of these things, we do have the opportunity to create space, even if it is 10 minutes at a time.
well, and what I love about what you just shared in terms of your time with the Lord, like that devotional time, it what it speaks to is when I was doing yoga teacher training, one of the things that we would talk about oftentimes is like there are times when the mat isn't available, like the mat just isn't available to you for whatever reason, it just you're not into it, you don't want to, you can't find the time, whatever the thing is. And I think that what you just described is a good example of it's okay if something's not available to you. It doesn't mean it's always going to not be available to you, right? It means that you create availability where you can,
Mm.
and you honor that availability when it's there and you honor it when it's not there, because there could be something else around the corner that's different. It doesn't look like the picture, right? Because I think
Mhm.
what's important is like I love the practice that you're doing. I actually have pretty similar practice, probably compressed to about an hour and a half, but it's what we make the space for, and it has to develop over time, right? Like it has to be the thing that works for us in that time frame and space. And if it doesn't, there's something else
Right.
there, but we have to be curious about it. Kind of like what you were talking about earlier with curiosity and thinking about how can we be creative. I think curiosity kind of gets tamped down. It's life-giving to be curious, to look at,
Yes.
to figure out what your undiscovered country is. Like what are the things that you don't know about yourself yet that might be just around the corner? And those can be really fun things to discover. So,
Absolutely. And it just fills your day with surprise and delight when you
mhm.
are curious and you trust yourself. If someone's listening to this podcast and they're like, okay, I see Wendy living a life that is pretty dreamy, and you are right, listener, it's true. And I created it for myself. And I don't think it's going to work if you just follow my 3 steps to living the life you want. Like, there are not 3 steps to living the life you want. There might be 3 practices that you do over and over and over 1,000 times a day that result in the life you want. But taking somebody else's example and then seeing how that works for you. Just like a recipe. If the recipe calls for cayenne and you don't like it spicy, you don't have to use the cayenne, but don't throw out the whole recipe. Just find out what's going to work best for you and trust how you feel in each of those moments or practices and see what's a good fit for you. And if 4:45 in the afternoon is better for you than AM, then hooray. Try that.
Absolutely. I love that example, and I love the idea of the recipe and thinking about like what I'm going to use the term secret sauce. Like what's your
Right.
secret sauce? Because I think what is challenging is folks that are listening to us right now, they A, they're interested, B, they want to get some ideas, like they want to be inspired. And I think oftentimes when we're listening to podcasts, what we're looking for is the validation of we're not alone. You're not
Mhm.
alone. And that is
Totally.
100% true. We are all here with you. And yet, as we are all finding our own paths, to some degree, we're doing it parallel, right? Like
Yes.
we all want that inspiration. We all want to be validated. Like we all feel sort of a sense of ennui, a sense of just uncertainty. And that happens through life. That's why we talk to peers or listen to peers so that we can get validated and feel normalized of like, okay, I'm not alone, and your path is your own, and that it's like we're all little snowflakes and we all have to find our own path. And so your 4:45, you're 100% right, might be somebody else's 12:30 p.m., and that is
Mhm.
completely wonderful. And these are all ideas to sort of spitball after and figure out for yourself. And oftentimes, I am a counselor by trade, and I teach school counselors how to be school counselors. So one of the things we talk about is journaling. Well, if I'm working with 5-year old isn't necessarily going to journal, but they might collage or they might get pictures and put them together, and that's their version of journaling, right? And so thinking about what is your own language? What works for you that does the same level of expression or reflection or movement, and it's your expression. Maybe we're all validated in that, hey, that might inspire us to live differently, to live maybe differently in a way that feels better, but it is our own expression. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And giving yourself permission to course correct, giving yourself permission to trust yourself, giving yourself permission to have it look different than a person that you admire and the things that worked for them. It's like, this is for you. And you can trust that. And God, the universe, whoever you listener refer to, this beautiful, creative source, divine energy, intelligence, all the good things. I'll call it God, obviously, because that's easier than all the other words. But your dreams, your peace, your love, your purpose, your reason for being here wants you as much as you want to know it. So you can trust that if a practice sounds intriguing, that you're going to have all the resources you need to do it. And if you're, of course, the alarm clock rings early. So there's a unfamiliarity and maybe an uncomfortable feeling about trying something new, but you know what a hard no feels like. If you don't want to put the apple cider vinegar and the lemon juice in your hot water, like you just don't want to. It's not going to have the effect that it's supposed to have if you are resistant to this whole process. So, finding what works for you and then just letting that be your yes. You don't have to justify it to anybody. You don't have to get everybody else's buy in. Just do what works. And then I mean, really, like the doing of the morning routine, it's just the first step. Like, then there's all of the guidance
Then
that you
there's the life,
receive.
right? Then
Right.
there's
Like,
the life.
during that time, you're going to have to keep taking steps and meeting your growth edges and course correcting and making mistakes and course correcting from that. And like you said, you're going to get another shot at it tomorrow. So it's okay. But there's this momentum that's required because we're playing the long game.
This is the marathon. This is not the sprint. And a word that you said that I'm not sure that you're aware that you said it, but I think is really important to highlight here is the notion of fear, because there is a vulnerability and fear in creating that space for yourself. Because when you turn off all the noise of other people's suggestions or what works for others that doesn't work for you, there is silence in that, right? And that silence is scary. Like, we don't spend a ton of time in silence. We tend to spend a lot of time trying to distract with, say, cell phones or people or activities and things like that. And I think the biggest growth edge that we come across when we are trying to figure out what's working for us at this stage, when we are trying to step into joy, is the silence that comes from, this is really only my decision. And that feeling will pass. Like, it's going to pass. And yet when you're in it, it's so darn uncomfortable. And it's hard to self-regulate yourself when you're uncomfortable. That's the truth. And so then it becomes easy to be like, oh, let me distract with a person, a phone, a pet, a task, whatever the thing is. But if we can slowly work into being more comfortable with that silence to truly meet, as you said, that creator and have that conversation, there is richness there, but it is not without peril. And I think that that's an important thing that we all have to be mindful of at any stage of life and honor it, because that's part of the growth too, right? Like, that what makes life sweet isn't just all the sweet, because if it was all sweet, we wouldn't appreciate it the same way, right? We have to have the struggles to be strong. We have to have the scary to appreciate the calm. And I think that that deserves space in our lives, because when we dance with that, it better prepares us to be calm when the next storm comes. So that's kind of my take. But you said that, and I just want to highlight that because it was such an important piece of what you just said.
Yes, that's so beautiful. And we need the contrast. When we know what we don't want, it makes it even more clear what we do want.
Yes. You're dating yourself, right? Like,
Oh
you're
my God.
constantly
And
dating yourself.
reparenting yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
All of the things at the same time. So, are there any practices that you have in the book that, let's say, a woman that's listening is saying, okay, I hear what you're saying. It's about to be a new year. I'm done. I'm done and I want more. And I don't know what exactly it means that I'm done. And I don't know what exactly it means that I want more, but those are the two things I know. And obviously, it would have been nice if I paid attention a few years ago, but here's where I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do I even start without like burning everything down in a day?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what comes up for me when you said that. And I don't think this is a burn it down, but we definitely are jumping into the 12-foot side of the pool. Like, I'm
Right.
fixing to just give it to you.
I want it.
So the cool thing is there are a lot of exercises in the book. And so I love that. So when I designed this book, I really and wrote it, I really was looking at, what are some of the best interventions that I have done with my own clients in my private practice, and how can I incorporate that in some way, shape, or form into this book? And so one thing that you can do if you would like to date this book is you can hop on the Bloomsbury website, and I'll give you all the information. All of the exercises that I created for the book are actually on Bloomsbury.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, the cool part about that is, like, I am an academic at heart, so the thought of writing in the book, like, really actually does hurt my soul. But yet people write in books, and that's wonderful. If it's your book, do it. If it's a library book, please don't. But you can download the exercises and check those out for yourself. It'll make more sense if you have the book. I will say that, but you can download it. But one thing, and it really comes up for me in the holidays when we go through Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah, and we're seeing people and that sort of thing. There is a chapter in my book about intimate relationships. And one of the pieces at the end of that chapter is an exercise called How Toxic is Your Pond? And so thinking
Mm.
about, like, your inner circle of people around you, one of the things that we did was to think about, if someone feels like a healthy relationship, like, create a pond, and you're going to create a fish for the person that feels like they're a healthy person in your life. And then if someone feels unhealthy, they've got more toxic traits than they're a snake. And I am sorry to all the critters out there. It's just what came up.
I don't know of any snakes that listen to the podcast, so I think we're okay.
And I like snakes. They do good things.
Sure.
So then you literally just have a pictorial of how many in your intimate relationships, how many fish and how many snakes. And then it kind of gives
Mm.
you an idea of like how toxic is your pond. And if you feel like your pond's a little more toxic than you want it to be, maybe that is something to look at and explore for yourself. So again, that's a little bit more 12 foot of water than like 3 feet of water, but I do think that it's a cool exercise. So
I do too. And, this can be a triggering time of year, whether it's just reminding myself of why I live on the other side of the country, or again, that's not my experience with my family, but it can remind people of what am I doing. It also, I believe, comes with this wah wah of I don't really have a choice. They're my family. And I'm going to say something that might be equally triggering. We have a choice.
yeah, yeah,
And there's nothing
absolutely.
that says you have to spend every Thanksgiving the way you've been spending it, or every Christmas the way you've been spending it, whether it's a table of people you see once a year or whether it's the person that you share your bed with. Like, we all get to be happy. There is a process to work through these relationships that are not joyful, or we're not being the best version of ourselves in these relationships. It's all of an inside job, but sometimes a part of that inside job is making a decision to not be in that room anymore. And those are big things. Obviously, like, don't decide that just because you heard it on a podcast. Like, please speak to a professional. However, I grew up, I'm the firstborn, so I'm a good girl. I was raised in church, so I'm a good girl. I thought that everybody that was standing on the stage, that even though they were reading the Bible, and I knew that was only truth, I thought that meant everything else they said when they weren't reading the Bible was also truth and only
Yeah.
truth, and that was some dude's opinion of something he read and how it like went through his own filter system, but whatever. So we have these rules that we are living under that have been practiced for a long time, but it doesn't mean that that's the way it has to continue to be.
Oh, yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I think some of what you're speaking to in counseling terms, what we'll say is like, what's the function? Like, we engage in certain
Mm,
behaviors, and it's like, well, what function is that for? And then, two, at one point in your life, it served a function, right? Like
totally.
being with your family, obviously, whether it's family that you grew up in and you are in this family and like you said you only go back once a year and all the there's a lot of
Yeah.
confounding factors that happen with it. The things that you do to get back together with these folks, whomever they are, they serve a function, and you'll get triggered and you'll function the same way, or like you'll go to these events and then you'll have to hide in your house for a week, whatever the thing is. Like, these behaviors serve a function. Then the question becomes like, you're an adult now, so yay, you made it. And the behaviors don't have to serve the same function, or you're engaging in the same behaviors and it's like they don't serve the same function anymore. And you know it because you don't feel good, right?
Right.
So then you have to really do that internal work of, if this isn't serving me anymore, how do I function differently so that that way, A, I'm not engaging in the same old behavior I've always engaged in that's not serving me. And B, I can function differently in a way that serves me, that probably is going to be hard for the people that I'm in relationship with, because I'm going to be functioning differently and they're going to react differently to me. And I go back to, how do I manage the discomfort of that?
Mm,
Because it's going to be uncomfortable. And Wendy, what you said, the thing about the holidays is January is when a counselor or mental health professional's dance card gets real full,
I
because
bet.
folks have been with their loved ones. They have been in a lot of different situations, work people, lots of different situations. And then it's like, oh, it's time to reevaluate. And I'm really reflecting on some things that happened
Yeah.
over the last season. And so I think that all of those pieces can be really, really important.
if there is a silver lining for the people that are in this situation, to be able to understand that it's always a double blessing. Like, if you hate that experience around that table, 100% the other people hate it too. Everyone is having a similar experience of discomfort. They're just using the tools that are available to them to deal with it. So sometimes our courage sets everybody free. Sometimes our example lets other people know that they also have choice. Rising tides raise all ships, whether that brings them to completely understand and apologize for everything they've ever done and they're now just like your super fan. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we get the opportunity to model what it looks like to live in our own personal yes. And we can invite other people to live in their personal yes and not have to control the conditions to make our yes feel better, because we know that that is, in fact, an inside job.
Oh, yeah. I love how you said that. That's wonderful. So we need to put that in a bow and put it under everyone's tree.
Happy New Year. Because I think, like you said, your dance card will be full in the coming months, and I love beginnings. So Thanksgiving used to be my favorite holiday, but New Year's Eve is my favorite holiday now, because I'm like writing a letter to my future self to be opened a year from now. All things are new on that day. It's the way I approach my morning practice as well. It's like, oh my gosh, the sun's not even up yet. Anything can happen today. And that's how I feel at the beginning of the year as well. So we can bring that energy and that beauty and that desire for something new, different, aligned.
Mm. I
And
love the word aligned. I
oh
love that
my
you use that
gosh,
word. Yeah.
the year that was my word of the year, that's when a lot of things changed around here,
Yeah.
including the number of people that live at this address.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's no joke. But
Yeah.
I completed with a lot of things. And I had a woman on the podcast. She's amazing. Her name's Dina Barron, and she's a numerologist, and she wrote a book as well. And which I cannot recall the title of. Forgive me, sweet Shannon. We'll put that in the show notes as well. But she talked about in numerology, 2025, you add all those numbers together. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9. And so we're in a 9 year. And in numerology, it just goes from 1 to 9, which means that this is a year of completion.
Mm.
So
Well, that
anything,
that resonates with me. So.
doesn't it? Like anything that you are ready to complete with, you need to do it by December 31st, or you will be carrying this around in your cute, energetic suitcases for 9 more years.
Oh,
I know.
wow.
I have gone through my closets. I have gone through my drawers. I have gone through my address book. I'm not going to grow dahlias anymore. I've been a dahlia farmer for decades in
Wow.
California and here.
Hmm.
I'm done
Hmm.
because I'm not available to do it for 9 more years. I wasn't sure if I was
Wow.
going to do it for another year, but I'm definitely not doing it for 9 more. So it is really like, this is an opportunity. This is not only the beginning of a new year, but a beginning of a new cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you like, I mean, some people, I don't believe in that. It's like, well, if you don't believe in numbers, there's a lot of them all around you. So it is,
I think, but I mean, I think the wisdom of that is what
yeah,
you're talking about is the internal inventory. And
totally.
I think that the internal inventory piece is something that many of us go through at the
Yeah.
end of a year. Or, I mean, again, teach in school. So the reality is,
Right.
like, the school year is new for me, so whatever your
Yeah.
beginning is needs to be your beginning. But I mean, I think that internal inventory of choosing for yourself, like, what do I really need to wrap up or leave behind? And then
Mhm.
what do I want to carry in or explore? I think that that transcends a lot of belief
Yeah.
systems and value systems. I think that that creating that as a natural cycle in your life just feels healthy. It feels right. Like
Right.
animals do that, right? Like you literally
Right.
see the little birds when they're coming out in spring and they're cleaning out old nesting boxes and they're putting new
Yes.
stuff in. So we're not doing anything in that inventory that we don't see all around us. And so I
Right.
think that there's such wisdom in that.
I love that. And the intentionality of even calling it something else. Like, really, like, what do I want to get bigger this year? And what
Hmm.
do I want to get smaller? And
Yeah.
whatever we're tolerating, we're choosing. So when we can put them into different buckets, just slightly changing the semantics makes it have the energetic and emotional weight that it actually has. We've just become accustomed to that pain. So
Yeah. Oh,
we're
yeah.
tolerating it
Yeah.
instead of, as soon as that woman said, I have to hold on to these pants for 9 more years if I don't get rid of them now. I was like, okay, you're done. And it wasn't about, of course, I can remove something from my closet in
Yes.
February without doing anything. But there was something about the mindset shift that made it feel like my decision
Yeah. It was
to
that
do
catalyst,
it.
right? Like, yeah, it was just that catalyst of,
Yeah.
I need to, like, I'm sitting on this decision. And again, it's like, what's the function of sitting on that decision? What's the function of
Mhm.
hesitating right now? It doesn't actually
Right.
serve a function. And it's like one of the metaphors that I'll use sometimes with clients is it's like you have on a wet wool blanket and it's the middle of July. Like, why are you walking around outside with a wet wool blanket in the middle of July? It's hot. It's disgusting. I'm in the South. It's humid. Like, you
Yeah.
are not serving yourself. So I love
Yeah.
that.
And it's true. They are that obvious if you have fresh eyes.
And that's the just, like, you just have to, but, again, taking that step back so you can take that step forward. And I know
Mhm.
the yes is really the embodiment of what you wanna pursue. As the counselor, I do have to say sometimes it's the no. The no can also be powerful. The no
The
is
no
sometimes
is
a
a
yes in
yes.
disguise.
The
Yes.
no is a total yes because it's a yes to yourself. You get to identify whatever that is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
many of the women I have on the podcast, when I ask them how they're saying yes to themselves in this season, they say, I'm saying no. I'm saying
Yeah.
no to these things and this obligation, quote unquote. Like, we put so much weight on the definitions of things that if we do stop and investigate a little bit, what is my motivation for this? What is this serving? Like you said earlier, it used to serve a function, but I'm not 8 years old anymore. I heard, I don't know if it was someone on the podcast or another podcast I was listening to, but the woman was talking about perfectionism, and perfectionism is a trauma response.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
what? I thought it meant I was paying
All the things that
attention.
made me successful in life are a trauma response.
Right. And then it's like, oh my gosh, what am I afraid of? And what was real about that? And I mean, oh my gosh, I get why silence is scary.
Mhm.
Because then you're
Absolutely.
like, oh great, now what? Now what am I supposed to
Yeah.
do with all this stuff that just
It's
filled
like
my
echo
journal?
chamber. Yikes, this is frightening. And, it's funny, this conversation actually reminds me of the year that, I made a promise to myself, and I had a teacher one time tell me, like, "A promise to yourself is sacred, like, you have to remember
Mm.
that." And when I don't wanna do something, when the alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning and it's time for me to get up to meditate, and really I just wanna lay in the bed, that is promise to yourself is sacred, get up, do it,
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right?
but it reminds me of, the year that I promised myself that I was gonna take a step back from doing emotional labor at work. And what
Ooh,
that
say
looks like at
more.
work was, as the only woman on the team, I would be the person who would make sure like there were food things or, like if we had an
Someone's
event, I would clean up
birthday.
after
Mhm.
or, just all those like nice emotional labor women type things. And I was like, this is the year that I'm just not, I'm not going to do that. And it was so interesting to me. First off, the world did not end. Amazingly
Really?
enough,
Are you sure?
I was a happier human, which was great. And things happened the way that other people would lead, and they needed to lead the way they needed to lead. And that was a
Mm.
really good thing for the whole team. And so that this conversation is really bringing that, like talking about that no, whatever your thing is, it needs to be yours. That was a really important moment for me in my own
Yeah.
maturity and development as a human to be like, I'm doing emotional labor at work or in other places that it's like, no, I actually don't have to do that. And if I take a step back, either something will fill in the gaps or it won't, and that'll be okay.
Okay,
And
how is that
I will
okay?
be 100% okay with it
How?
because I won't be burnt.
How? How is that okay? I have a question. Because witnessing that and what's coming up for me is in the past some women are wanting to go on my trip to Paris, let's say.
Mhm.
And they're like, "But I have one woman, this happened a couple of years ago. She's like, I have a 14-year-old. Like I can't even imagine what's not going to happen if I'm not here."
Mhm.
And it was a big leap for
Oh,
her
yeah. Oh, yeah.
emotionally. It's like her only child, and what he's going to feel like I'm abandoning him, and no one's going to do the dishes, or he's going to eat chips for dinner or whatever, right? And then she went, and on she got home, and of course the house was clean, like everything was fine. And it did give him the opportunity, because when she got back, now he asks her, "Mom, I see you're still working at your desk. Can I make you a snack or get?" And she was like, "What? This is amazing. I should have gone a long time ago." But my question is, how do you make that decision without getting on a plane to Paris to spend the 2 weeks while they figure out their stuff? Like, how do you witness it without going back on the promise to yourself?
Absolutely. Well, I think first off, that silence in your head.
Mhm.
Like I think that's going to be the first thing that you and actually I can't even say that you'll have the benefit of silence. It'll be more like quieting the head noise that's screaming,
Mhm.
going, Dear Lord, let me
Mhm.
pick up XYZ or let me fill in the gaps, right? And so then it becomes that self-soothing of, okay, what's the function of this? Like if I step into overfunction, are we all going to learn our lesson? Or if I self soothe, because this feeling is going to pass, how is that going to make me different? How is that going to make the situation different? Accepting the fact that it's not going to be a perfect situation. I think if we could all hop on a plane to Paris, we would, or France, I think we'd all be
Yeah.
happier. I do think that, it's not going to be a perfect thing. So there are going to be times where you are going
Yeah.
to overfunction. Like I overfunctioned, and then you forgive yourself and you start over again the next day, just like we talked about
Right.
earlier. So I think that there's that piece of it. And then really kind of having that moment with yourself of like, what's the function of this? The function, just like your example, which was a beautiful example, it's a less extreme example of if I am looking to have other humans in my life who appreciate the things that I do and that they do, then sometimes I have to take a step back and let them see where the holes happen.
Mm.
And also, it kind of tells us what people value. A lot of this is predicated on the notion of this is what I value or you value or your client valued. But if other people don't value it, it's okay because guess what? We don't all value the same things. And I think that's probably the most uncomfortable piece is
Yeah.
for me in that growth experience is not everybody actually appreciated the thing. Not that they didn't appreciate me and that I was doing it. It was just the things they actually weren't valued because they weren't as
Right.
important to them. And
Right.
that was okay. Like we all lived through that experience. But I think that that piece of discovery is us also accepting other people in our lives for who they are, not who
Mm.
we want them to be.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that means we have to accept ourselves, but we also have to accept the terms of these people in our lives. And that sometimes is the hardest thing of all, isn't it?
Right. I mean, on the big things, I am all in. I cannot even describe the level of resistance I feel in my body listening to your words and the topic of why this is so challenging for me is so stupid that I'm going to say it out loud. Like, but are you sure? Like, what about loading the dishwasher? Like, really,
The
I'm like, I
dishwasher.
can forgive so much, but it's like, are you freaking kidding me? Have you ever watched me over the last, I don't know, 25 years load the dishwasher? Do I ever put that knife in here? No. Do I put the wooden handled spatulas? No. So
Do
I
you know how many
think
therapy sessions I've done on the subject of the dishwasher?
of
Do you
my
know how many
unhealthy attachment to my kitchen stuff.
how many like friend conversations I've had about how is it that we've all lived in the same house for 15 years and we still don't know where the big colander goes, so it just lands on the countertop and it never goes to its home?
Right.
Why?
Yet you got it out. So you do
Mhm.
know where it is. You just
Yep.
can't remember in this vast landscape that is the kitchen.
Yes.
I mean, it's really I know control is an illusion. But that is clearly like okay, I'm glad that I know that this is a 9 year and I got to complete with this attachment because it really is. My grandmother had this great saying, never load another woman's dishwasher.
Mm,
And
that was a wise woman right
I
there.
know that could practically be in the Bible for how much I attached, yes, total truth to that. But I am, and I think that these things happen. Like wherever your vibration is off or wherever you have a growth edge, don't worry, it'll get bigger. Like it'll don't worry. You won't miss out on the lessons that are here for you because as I was chatting with you before we hit record, there are movies that are being filmed here, which is so fun and exciting, and TV
Yes.
shows and all of this stuff. And the last couple of times they've been in the kitchen, and I've really noticed I have an unhealthy attachment to my stuff in that room.
Mm, mm. I
It's just
cannot
interesting.
wait to hear the rest of this story at some
I
point.
can't wait to hear the rest of that story too. Like I've identified the problem. We've chatted about perfectionism being a trauma response. Like what's happening there? So I'm glad I've got some journaling to do. I'll report to you, listener, if I'm still a freak show in 2026 or what's
Oh,
happening.
I don't think I would ever identify you as that. And B, what I would say is like, look at all the amazing work you've already done. If the place that you're centering
Yeah,
is the colander in your kitchen, like
right,
honestly,
right.
in the grand scheme of life, you've done a lot of work. So let's maybe celebrate that it's just the colander in the kitchen and you've
Thank you.
identified it and you know, because so many of us are still working on so many things. And so
Right.
I say go for it, girl. Like
Thank you.
you've conquered more life than you haven't. How about that?
I received that. And I love that you said that because I was shoe shopping with Amelia. She's 11, and shoe shopping is challenging
Hmm. Hmm.
because I'm raising a young woman who knows what she wants and says what she wants and listens to her body and is also a fashion designer. And
Wow.
sometimes she's like, I don't like the, I'm like, what don't you like about these shoes? Like, oh my gosh, these are so, I don't like how they look when I look down. Like, well, nobody else is looking down but you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Wendy Harrop, what are your words? That's the only opinion that matters is how they look when you're looking down because that's what I'm raising. But she wants these high tops, but she's like, well, I really want a high top, but with a zipper because I don't like the tying. I'm like,
Mm.
oh my word. If the worst thing that happens in your life is tying your shoes, you have a sweet gig. And then she was like, I do, mom. Thanks. It's like, oh, yeah, you have a sweet gig. Like, it just changed like that. It changed my vibration. I had like all the
Yeah.
same words, but so Hooray. That the only thing I'm a freak show about is the wooden handled spatulas not belonging in the dishwasher. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that shift.
You're welcome. But no, I don't put the wooden handled spatulas in
Because
my
they're not
dishwasher.
supposed to go in the dishwasher.
Yeah,
Right.
it'll
Well,
ruin them. So,
you may load my dishwasher.
well, A, I am honored, and B, no, I'm following your grandmother's advice because there's something in there that I'm going
No,
to do
I'm
wrong.
sure I'll freak show something about something else. That's for sure. Oh my gosh. Okay. Dr. O'Brien, I love you. You're
Oh, this was
amazing.
wonderful. Thank you so much. I am so grateful. And what a way to celebrate holidays and the coming of a new year, if this is the way you want to kick it off, a new beginning. So I am just so grateful for this time. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Truly, it has been a delight.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. And thank you for writing this book. I think the timing could not be better. And we have so much opportunity to make the shifts that our heart is calling us toward. And you've written a blueprint on how to do that. So thank you for that. Please
Well,
tell
thank you.
everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can get a copy of the book and a copy of those lovely worksheets that you mentioned so they don't have to write in their book.
Absolutely. So we will have links to bloomsbury.com, the publisher, for your show notes so that way
Mm-hmm.
you have them. We want to make sure I could give you the extensions, but I will mess it up and that would
That's
just be
okay.
tragic. So definitely we will get that for your show notes. You can actually find The Power in the Middle on Amazon if that is your choice. You can also go to Barnes and Noble or you can go directly to bloomsbury.com. You can find all of that on my website, which is www.dreobrien.com. So dreobrien.com. And all the links are there for that. I would love it if you guys would follow me on socials. And all the links will be on the website, but it's at Dr. Elizabeth O'Brien for Instagram and Facebook. Sign up for the newsletter. I promise I am not going to bog you down. It is one time a month, but it's some of like reflections of my month and some fun little tips and tidbits for you and things like that. And then, Wendy, if you're okay with it, I actually do have a
Please.
discount code for the book. And so I will send
Fantastic.
that to you and you can pop that into the show notes. If you order on Bloomsbury, you'll get 20% off. So we always want to help people out.
What a gift. Thank you so much. You're so generous, and I've really appreciated this time together.
Thank you, Wendy. And I look forward to talking to you again, hopefully in the future.
I can't wait. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.